window, and then your composition window has your layer. So the first one is your movie file. And essentially, you can take it and you can kind of scrub your movie file. So if you just want to scrub it, you kind of see it. So that's and this is how it works. This file where it works just like a video editing program, where you're just kind of scrubbing. You're just scrubbing through if you're working with a movie file. Oh. Little thing. If it looks distorted, you actually want to go here and put fit. And then that will give you the whole idea of your composition window. So just to backtrack, we have our project window, which is over here. We have our composition timeline, which is a timeline that you move across. And then your composition window is basically everything that's happening or what's playing is shown on here. And this is another Disney thing, just for demonstration purposes.
Are all the effects and controls on the right side?
Right, and essentially all of them are on the right side in terms of what you're going to do, but it could change depending on how you have your layout set.
Yeah.
Generally, when you first open After Effects, all of the effects are on the right side, on this side right here. But for instance, there's this panel right here. Basically, just shows all the panels. This has different workspace areas. So, for instance, if I hit animation, it would change the layout. If I go to, effects, you change the layout. See, it's very different. I generally, or you can also make your own workspace too as well. For teaching purposes and just kind of just go over the basics, I just leave it on all panels because that's generally how anybody first opens it up. It kind of doesn't really look like this. It's getting a little squished, but just.
Can I ask you a really basic question about the?
Yeah, sure.
So in the timeline part where there's the blue part of your whole video
This part right here.
on the one next
The timeline.
yeah, the timeline. Just like simple basic question, how like if I wanted to take off the last 10 minutes or something, how do you edit that part?
Great question. So as you see here, this is for here's mine right here. Here's the whole video.
Right.
So if you just want let's say I want to use just like this, just this part up to here.
Right.
I just need the last book. Now, like a Final Cut or Premiere, you could just it works kind of the same way. You just move your mouse cursor and you have like this. You see this guy right here, and then you just drag it over to your timeline. And see now there's nothing.
Great.
And then you can kind of zoom in more. You zoom in by the plus or minus on the top. You get more exact.
I see. Awesome.
And that's how you basically, if you want to cut something out or you don't want to use the whole thing. But also key to note, you see how you have like this kind of overlay essentially? That's showing that there is more video, but we're not going to access it. So
I see.
So
and if you wanted to take the part that you're using, so that the extra bold blue part, is it as easy as in other programs where you can take that and copy and paste it to make it another part of the timeline if I wanted to have 2 of these videos?
right. So if you want to essentially like say you want to layer it up.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Layer it up.
Layer that guy up. Just want to highlight it.
How do you do that?
Okay, just kind of go over to your source name, because that's where your layer is. Highlight that guy. Then you could use hotkeys or copy.
I see.
And then paste. And it would paste it right below.
What if you wanted a selection within your clip?
Within my clip?
Not just like cut off the end, but if you wanted, say, 30 seconds in the middle of your clip.
Oh, okay, it works the same way in the beginning. So anywhere you want, you basically just try to find where you want, and then you just kind of move it. And so you know where the time is. Here's your time code essentially. So for instance, let's say I want to go to a minute 30. I want to go to a minute 30 in my timeline, in my clip. So I would hit this, and then use my little arrow key, and then I can type in whatever time code I want. I know exactly where I want to go,
Right.
and you hit return, and it will take you to the minute 30 section. Let's say I want to, so not the minute 30. I just meant the 30-second part. And then just take the 30-second part of it.
So now these two videos are right on top of each other.
Right, they're right on top
Are
of
they,
each other.
can you transform, like how you would in other programs too?
I'm sorry, not
Like if you were working in like Photoshop and you wanted to transform something else on top of it?
Oh, right, okay. So
Does
let's,
it work just like that,
it
or?
works just like that. Let's have a little fun. Let's add a couple effects, all that stuff like that. Much like in Photoshop, you have the different like filters, all that
Right,
stuff. So basically, it works the exact same way. That's why I said really, After Effects is essentially, it really is that bridge between Photoshop and video.
right,
So pretty much, you can do whatever, you can do all the stuff you can do in Photoshop and just add emotion to it.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So if you wanted to add, so this is if you're copying and pasting the same exact video, but if you wanted to add a different video with it to be on the second layer of the timeline, would you import just the same way you would with the file and would it go to the same place?
All right, so let's do that right now.
Okay.
That's a good thing too, because mainly when you're working on a project, you're going to have a lot of media. I'm not going to work on just one video. Essentially, you're going to have a photo. Well, let's try. Let me try to do that. Let's import. Let's say import file and go over wherever you have your file. Let's try to give a still image.
Sure.
I'll just import a still image, just to change it up a little bit.
Okay.
So find your still image and then hit open it. Then it'll import it.
Oh yeah, I see.
Now, since we already made our timeline right here, it's really simple. All you want to do is to add to here. Before, when we first start, I put this guy right here. We'd only drag into this little thing, which is the composition maker, is when you want to make a whole new timeline. If you want to add to a timeline, like our existing one, it's really simple. Just drag it and drop.
Got it.
And you see how it just dragged it right here?
Yeah.
Now you're probably saying to me, hey Andrew, I can't see anything, didn't you just drag it? Well, much like Photoshop where there's a couple of layers, it's huh?
You have to bring it to the front.
Right, you have to bring it to the front, correct. Let's move this guy to the front.
Is it automatically the whole length of the video you already have? And
Right.
you shorten it like anything else?
Right, so essentially when we first started, whatever you imported into your composition, it made the composition setting is the length. So it will just drag it, if it's a still image, it would actually fill the entire thing. Now, if you, let's see this video is like 3 minutes long. Let's say I imported a 2-minute video, it would just hit a block. Tricky part is if you import something longer than your composition, you actually won't see it. You have to change that. So keep that in mind, and I'm kind of going all over the place a little bit, but if that should happen where you're importing something that's longer than your composition setting, basically where I always go to, it's pretty much where it's really simple. Composition, composition settings. And here, this is pretty much basically your heart of your entire project, your whole thing.
Oh, so you just make the original longer?
Right. So right now we started, like my original video was an HD video. You can change that. You can make it an SD video. You can make it a 720. You can make it a 4K and whatever. But right now, since I'm using just working natively, that's why it's HD. But as you can see right here, the duration is 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Now, if I imported another video, let's say it was 5 minutes, the full 5 minutes wouldn't show on this timeline. You just won't see it. You would have to go to composition settings and then change your duration. Let's say, much like I did before, you just enter a higher thing. So you enter 5. Now it's 5. Now my composition timeline is 5 minutes.
Gotcha.
So, and then you can kind of see that. Here. See, here's so the original composition ended pretty much where this guy here. The There's no extra space. Well, you actually added 2 minutes, and now you have all this extra space. So good. All right, so we have our 2 layers. So we have our still layer on top, since it's basically just going by the order, and the one on the bottom. So let's say I want to add an effect. Let's say I don't want a basic dissolve. Let's say we want to do that. That's really simple. That's not that hard. Let's do that.
With the photo?
With the photo. So let's say I'm going to place it down here. And I want the photo to come up, essentially. Almost like it's like a magic thing.
Yeah.
So it's going, I want somehow to go up. So basically, in here you see these little arrows. You drop down the arrow, and here, this basically has all of your settings for the video. So you have your audio, and you have your transform settings.
Mine just says transform. Do I not have audio in my?
Oh, you must. If it doesn't say audio, then there's no audio in the actual
because I did
video
the
file.
photo.
Oh, the photo. Oh, go to your video.
Oh,
You see your video?
yeah, got it. Oh yeah, it has it.
Okay, then drop down your transform. And here, this is pretty much all of your animation settings. What you want to do to your video or photo, essentially.
Cool.
You can move the position, you can move the scale. So let's just play around a little so you can see. I can move this. So you can move the position if you want to do like an effect.
Oh, you're literally, that's great, you're literally just using cursor.
Right, exactly. You could do this too as well. You can move it around like that. You know,
This is fantastic.
I generally don't do this because it's very
Like 2 by 1.
you have to do it by eye. So I always work according to. Either way, it works. Just wherever you're more comfortable in working, essentially. So
Is there a reset button?
yes, there is the one that says reset. You see it right here?
Oh yeah.
So let's say I screwed it up. Let's say I didn't want to do that. If I can't get it exactly perfect, I'm trying to eye it. Let's just hit the reset, and it just resets to where it was before.
Got it.
Down here is your scale. So this is you can like up and down. You can zoom in, stuff. Here is your rotation. You can rotate the video. There you go, it's rotated. Or I want to add, let's say I want to add like a graphic thing where it's like a couple different layers. You want to rotate it. I'll show you how to do a basic animation like that. And then here is your opacity, which we're actually going to do our dissolve, which are kind of our first basic effect. Let's say I want to do something really basic, like I have this video and I want it to go away, and I want to reveal what's ever underneath. Now, After Effects, how it works in something called keyframes. Have you heard of that term before?
Yeah.
So basically, what you want to do is you want to set your animation points to your keyframes. So we'll go to our start of the video. Okay. And then you want to hit this little stopwatch guy. That's your keyframe guy right there. Okay? Pretty much now it's active. So when you hit that stopwatch guy, you see you have like this little diamond thing right here. That's your first keyframe.
That's easy.
Now, essentially what After Effects is, it's an animation. If you think of it like an animation program, where you're animating things and you're adding changes to things. And whatever changes you do, you have to have these keyframes. Essentially, it tells you, the program, what it's telling you, the picture, it's do something up to this point, and at this point, change it. So right now, as I'm basically just kind of playing through, scrubbing through, right now the program's just saying, okay, it's having just 100% opacity. Let's say I want to go to my, 13-minute mark, which is right here. I want to add another keyframe. So hit the other keyframe.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's at 100 because that's what it's set at. Let's say I want to make a change. Basically, You see this space right here? So right now in this space, actually that's already, actually it's already dissolved there. That's right here.
Why do you put on the stopwatch again?
The stopwatch is so you can activate it to make the keyframe. So when you hit the stopwatch, that says, hey, I want to do an animation. I want to fuck things up. I want to screw things around. We're gonna have fun. That's basically what it means. It's just saying, let's activate it. So let's go over here, back here, make another keyframe. Zoom in right here, and you can kind of see the space. This space right here.
And how did you have the second one to tell it when to stop?
Oh, okay. It's really simple. I just move the timeline guy,
Yeah.
and then wherever you place it, just hit the little,
Oh, I see. Thank you.
see the little dot. You can't see it. Again. You hit this dot, and that makes the keyframe.
Got it. Oh yeah, perfect. Thank you.
And then if you want to toggle through this keyframe, you have these arrows right here.
Uh-huh.
So you click that. That goes to your basically this goes to your first keyframe. This goes to your second keyframe.
Awesome.
So, our basic first animation, simple dissolve, simple opacity. I want to reveal the bottom. Just go to your opacity, so you want to start at 100. You want to go to your second keyframe, so you toggle to your second keyframe. You can see how it's selected right here. The timeline's right there. Oh, it's also really important to, when you go through your keyframes, to use these toggles. You never want to eye it or actually kind of use this guy when you're doing animation, because if you're off by, let's say, one frame,
Uh-huh.
they'll make a new keyframe and you'll screw it up.
So you can have multiple keyframes on one.
Oh, you can have as many keyframes as you want. You can have a keyframe on every frame. But when you're making an effect or something, it's really important to actually go to the keyframe. So if let's say I want to go to my first keyframe, and I'm like this, whatever. This actually is not. See how it's not on the keyframe? So if I do any effect, it would actually make a new keyframe, and then it won't have the desired reaction.
What if you mess up where you want it? How do you delete it?
Okay, so you go back to this guy right here,
Uh-huh.
okay, and then you see how this is highlighted, okay, and that's basically going to go to the keyframe that you don't want, and then you hit the top and you just toggle this guy off, and that basically deletes the keyframe. Now it's gone.
Wait, sorry. What was the last part?
Okay, so
It's
You-
highlighted.
highlighted, just hit it,
Yeah.
and then did it go away? Is your
Uh,
keyframe that you want to go away?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sure? Oh, no? No. I'll go over there.
So if I wanted this one to go away.
So if you want this one to go away. See, this is the perfect problem. Actually, what you have here, you have multiple keyframes.
Oh, because I made it too large?
Not that you made it too large,
I just
because
accidentally made too many.
you actually made too many, because probably when you were trying to, you were just eyeballing it, and I do this problem a lot. And so I thought I was on the keyframe, but I wasn't. So
I
you
see.
go to the one that you don't want,
Oh,
See how-
I see.
and then it goes away. So you want see this keyframe
Yes.
goes away,
Great.
or and that's how you're toggling through your two keyframes.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Got it.
All right, where was I?
Is there any way to edit images in this? Or like, do you edit them outside of it and bring them in?
You want to what?
Is there any way to edit images like in it individually, or do you edit them outside of it and bring it in?
Well,
I mean, like,
give me an example.
we're going to like cut a corner off of it.
You could do it in After Effects. Easier to do it in Photoshop. Depends on what you're doing it for,
Yeah.
essentially. But you could, in After Effects, you can make a mask
Mm-hmm.
and then mask off the one that you want. But with something as simple as that, it actually would be easier to work with. Basically, make your cutoff edge in Photoshop, and then whatever motion you want, then you would put it into After Effects and do essentially whatever. Okay, so just
When there's transparency like that, will the default just be black when it's like rendered to video?
I will get to that point in a second. That's an excellent point. All right, so we have 2 keyframes here now. We go to our second keyframe and change our opacity to 0. So now, when you go to your first keyframe and you hit the space bar or hit the space bar, you'll go through, but see how it's slowly going away. And as you can see, if you stop it, see now you're at 79. So basically what the program is saying, it's basically, it'll get to 0 when it gets to that point. And if you want the dissolve to be quicker, you just move the keyframe around. Let's say you want like a 2-second dissolve essentially. So you go to your first keyframe, then you go 2 seconds out. Whatever 2 seconds, that would be on this guy right here. So if the first keyframe was at 31, you want to go 2 seconds out, go to 33. Okay? And then you can move your keyframe to that. And then it's pretty much right there. That's basic. That's,
Yeah, cool.
that's just, and essentially, that very basic thing essentially is how After Effects works. It works on keyframes and the length of the keyframes and where you place the keyframes. And the effect I showed you with the airplane, that was all keyframes. That was starting off with something, and I would change the position, I would change the scale, I would add a new layer, and that's all done in multiple hundreds of keyframes.
Create that animation in After Effects, like the shape of the plane and everything?
Yes.
Yeah.
You make that was actually a folded effect where it's a little complex in a way, not too
No,
No,
yeah, I'm
just-
sure.
No, it was basically a flat layer, and how you see the fold, it's being masked over each other. It took a while to do. That's basically how
But
that
you
was
can
done.
just, like make the piece of paper is a square. that
Right,
you
exactly.
place on.
You place on stuff. All right, so let's go back to our video. Let's see. And change it back to 100 to see it. So let's add some effects. Let's go crazy. Let's just the fun stuff. Now, depending on what plugins you have or anything like that, all the effects layers, you see the effects and presets right here. So you can kind of go through. I don't know what you have on your computer. You might have some things different or not, but like, is there anything you like that you want to?
Well, there's one thing I'm curious about. I don't know if it's like a easy as one of these kind of things, or if it's a more complex thing, and if it is, fair enough. But I'm wondering about a video erasing from videos,
So you want to?
like erase an element that is part of a moving video, like as if there were a green screen there and there wasn't. So
Green screen.
like, is it that though?
Is that
what it is?
Is that what you're saying? You want to?
Maybe.
You want to do
I think-
green screen?
Like if, for example, if you wanted to take out all of the yellow layer of yours, like that row of windows or whatever it is there a way to erase it so the background is that transparency that we saw before?
Ah, okay, I know what you're
Yeah.
saying. So
So if I wanted like another video in the timeline to be under there so it would come through.
there are a couple different ways you can do it. The most complex way is rotoscoping. You've heard that term?
No, but I want to write it down.
Yeah, you can rotoscope. That would take all. That's a
That's
whole.
the whole thing.
That's a whole. You can
Is there
do.
a simpler way?
Is there a simpler way?
No.
Let's.
Sounds like plumbing.
It sounds like plumbing.
Yeah.
Rotoscoping is probably the vein of any video editor's existence. It's like when you have to like get something and change something or you don't want to go by hand. Because basically what you're doing is essentially, you have this video, it's it's playing at 30 frames per second.
Right,
So 1 second there's 30 frames.
right.
So rotoscoping means you're going frame by frame and you're cleaning up that image.
Is there a way though, as opposed to doing it frame by frame, to make it like just a crude, like say I want to take a crude shape out of the video, like just a box. Would you still have to do it frame by frame, or is there just like an overall encompassing copy and paste?
If it doesn't move,
Yeah, it doesn't.
if it doesn't move, then yes, that's really simple to do. If there's lots of movement in it, then
Maybe
unfortunately
if it was just a simple one,
a simple one.
yeah, like no movement one, like
Yeah,
why would you take that?
If you're just gonna you just want to make a circle,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. So for that,
Start with a circle.
huh?
Start with a circle.
A circle.
You can get more.
We'll start.
complex.
We'll go a little
Like
more.
if I wanted to have a video of a circle, yeah, circle, perfect.
Like a window in your video and
Right.
there's something behind it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't move, but the video still.
So you want to go to your square.
Did we get rid of the keyframes?
You can get rid of the keyframes. We're going with that one. Okay, so what you want to do is go to your main video,
Okay.
and then go to your layer.
The main one back on top?
You can put the main one on top. Basically, you want to select. You want to make sure that. See how I did? I have three. I have three layers right here. So select whatever one that you want to basically work with,
Okay.
which is essentially I would assume to be the first one on top right here. Now, let's say I want to make a circle or a square or any type of image. I want to make a hole there so I can see underneath it. So you want to go to Layer, Mask, and then New Mask. And see how then it would have, you see this like yellow? Did it happen in your video like that?
Yep.
So you want to go to your mask right here. You can see it. And then you have these corner points. And from these corner points, you can do all this stuff.
Five.
Okay? Here's a square symbol. Now let's say I want to do the reverse. You go down here, you want to invert it, and then looky.
Five. Wait, could we do it again?
It's a lot like Photoshop then.
Yeah.
Exactly. So pretty much if you have an understanding of Photoshop,
Translate.
you can translate it, since it's Adobe, you can translate the same thing. And if it's simple like where it's not any movement and you just want let's say it's, you have an image of I'm shooting this and I want to show something on the TV screen. I just want to put something on the TV screen that's not there. This would be one way of doing it. Okay. The rotoscoping, that's if you want to get really complex and actually, it's a little, I think you mean more this, not the rotoscoping. Am I right?
Both, yes.
Both? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just start all over again. Let's go back.
Is there a way to isolate just the mask?
Is there a way just to?
Just to isolate the mask so it's not attached to the video?
All the masks or effects, they have to go to a layer.
Okay.
So, much like how Photoshop works, you kind of think like, I want to affect the bottom layer, you have to put the effect in the first layer, and vice versa. So to select it, go to Layer, Mask, New Mask. You have the yellow outline right here,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And then you can take these corner points. Oh, we just want to move the mask.
What did you just do to make it flexible like that? Because mine did the same thing where it's rigid and then soft.
So if much like the other one too, you can also add different. Now we're really getting to After Effects. For every little thing you do, it's like it's going down a rabbit hole essentially. There's like more options and more options and more options. So always keep that in mind that pretty much you can do it if you spend enough time with it and you kind of finesse it essentially. So you want to select our mask. When you first select it, it's rigid and you can kind of move the mask around. Okay? Let's go back. Oh, if I want to go back, let's say I make a quick change. It's just Command Z. Now it's rigid. Just select out, and now how it looks in this circle. So now it's flaccid. Now it's transformable. You can move it around.
Like click the gray.
Just click the gray, right. So select the mask again. When you first select it, it's always rigid. That's when you can move it. Let's say I want to make it flaccid. I want to be able to move it. I want to make it editable. Just click out the gray, and now you can make your different shapes essentially. Like I want to, I want to get Goofy's head here.
So what would happen if this is one little box square? If you kept it that way, the movie would play in that little mask.
Right, exactly, yes.
Awesome.
So it would just be it would just always be there.
Yeah, because I'm seeing this, I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
So now, and if I want to move the mask around, see how I'm moving the mask?
Yeah.
So I can go pretty much, I can move this anywhere, and I can kind of reveal what I want to reveal underneath.
What if you wanted to move around just like you're making it move?
So what are you holding on?
Oh,
The mask that's rigid.
right, exactly.
Got it. So it's on that layer and then just moving that around, just like you would.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And I saw shape, is that where you make the circle, the outer mask on?
This right here is you can, let's see, here's the circle. So that would this would be like a porthole.
And that's just through shape.
And that's through shape. So mask path, shape.
But you can, feather makes it blurry around the edge.
Right, exactly. So let's say I want to do exactly make it kind
And I'm
of blurry.
assuming you can use.
See how it's kind of see how it's
Yeah.
very soft now.
Yeah.
So in effect, put somebody else's face on it. Essentially, if the person's standing still, you can shoot two videos, mask out the guy's face, put on top, feather it, so you have this really cool kind of arty effect happening, and then
You can
Exactly.
keyframe masks the same as video.
right, exactly. So if you want to add the feather, you want to
You
start
just feathered
forward.
it like that just now?
Oh, see how it's kind of feathered a little bit?
Yeah.
All I did, see the mask feather, you just increase the pixels. So 0 pixels, that's hard. That's no feather whatsoever. If you want to add a feather to it, you can either add a value, or if you actually just kind of hover over it, you see this little hand guy, and then just kind of drag it, and you can kind of see, and it's a little bit hard to have that yellow there, kind of guesstimate. And the same thing with the opacity. It's basically, it's essentially the opacity of the actual video, which that's just another way of doing it there too as well. That's masks. Masks 101. Really useful, and actually that's how I did the book thing with the mask. I had different masks, and that's how
Turn the page.
you turn the page and you put images on top of
Oh,
each
the
other,
pictures.
the pictures and stuff. That was using masks too as well. Right. So we're done with our. Oh, when you let's say you don't want the mask anymore, just go to none, and then even though it's still there, it's turned off.
Got it. So you can kind of see what it looks like.
Right,
Oh, and
exactly.
those are like overlays.
And the overlays exactly. So if you want to You know, much like Photoshop, they're all a little depending on what it is, a little different. You know, there's a darkening difference, and really just the add or subtract is kind of what I use. So let's turn off our mask. Go back to our video, and let's try to find an effect that everybody has here. Let's say I wanted to there's noise in grain. So much like Photoshop or Premiere, if I wanted to add kind of a different look to it, I would add an effect to the video. So if I go to my effects preset, and then select add grain or dust and scratches, essentially, let's say add grain. You select it's a little hard, but basically you just take that and you drag it into your timeline.
Do you usually have like two
Three
screens?
screens,
Huh?
yeah, I was just gonna
Yeah,
say.
like
There's
three
that-
screens.
Yeah, there are 3 screens usually.
Can
So,
tell.
so basically just take your effect, and then see how it's highlighted. You add it to which layer you want. So since we're working on the first layer, let's add it to the first layer. And then when you add any effect, what it does, it opens this window right here. It opens your effects controls. And in your effects control, when you add grain, for instance on this one, this kind of has all of your settings essentially. And as you can see, what the majority of settings have the stopwatch. So you can add keyframes to your settings. So you can even go more in depth with it too as well. So let's see, let's just go to kind of do anything.
Make it look like fake film.
Right, exactly.
Tiny.
So you can add different, make it look like film, easily color negative. It's very intensive, these types of effects, essentially. It's rendering a lot. So if you have a slow computer, just keep that in mind. If you do any type of effect, like adding grain or any type of external effect, it takes a long time to go. For instance, on this one right here, there's like a preview. This little block, and it's kind of hard to see. Nope, that's not working. Right now on this effect, this viewing mode is preview, and it's showing in this little box area the intent, how you're affecting it. So you can actually kind of see it more in real time. Now what's really happening though, you're just viewing in preview, what's really happening is that when you go to final output, then it'll show you the whole thing. So if you want to change the look of a video you have, there are lots. There's add grain, there's dust and scratches, there's fractional look. Pretty much just pick which effect you want, lay it on top, and then you can kind of manipulate it and work in it within your layer.
Do you recommend that over Final? I think I didn't, when I used to edit with that, there was a couple filters, but there seems to be more here.
Right. So Final Cut Premiere, they have the majority of the filters, and yes, you're absolutely right. You can add all of your effects in Final Cut, and then import that video into After Effects. There are more effects in After Effects. It gets more in depth. It's more a heavy program. So it depends on what you're trying to go for. Quick and dirty, or you want to like kind of add an effect in After Effects. Let's say you add all the effects in After Effects, in Final Cut or Premiere, and then you put in After Effects. Oh damn, I want to add that one extra effect. So you have two options. You can go back to your Final Cut or Premiere project, add the effect, export it out, or you can go in After Effects and add the thing there.
Yeah.
So whatever works for, there's no right or wrong answer essentially. It's like essentially whatever works for your timeline. That would you make the call there.
Can I ask you now about, you know those like insane 3D model animated GIFs that people make in After Effects?
The what?
Like just 3D rendering
Yeah.
of like animated GIFs. Does that start from something else or is that built completely from scratch?
That's generally built. It depends on something else, and if you could import it to After Effects. After Effects is not the 3D modeling program. There are so a 3D modeling program would be Cinema 4D, Maya.
Right.
There's other ones too. Well, I use Cinema 4D for 3D stuff. So in terms of like any like 3D modeling or working with some heavy 3D effects, you would actually work in that 3D program, and you would export and then you would put it into After Effects. The bridge is when you want to import 3D models into a live action video. So for instance, let's say I have like any type of special effect you see in Hollywood or anything like that. You know, I'm just shooting this room and I want to have an airplane crash through that window. You know, I would make the model of the airplane in Cinema 3D, in Cinema 4D, and then I would have it crash through. The window would be a 3D model that would crash through, and that would land right here.
I see.
So that's very heavy inducive compositing and stuff, where you're basically merging layers. What I showed you before with that Disney book, that was very simple. There was some 3D, but there's nothing too heavy or anything like that.
What about the paper globe that you made?
Oh, the paper glove. Okay, we can look at that. Let's close this one. Or you can leave yours open, and then I'll just open mine up.
Should I just start opening up a new? Or yeah, I'll just watch you.
Just watch on this one. Just watch.
Oh yeah, also, do you have multiple projects running on After Effects like you do in Photoshop, or is one at a time?
So with After Effects, you can only have one project open at a time. So let's say you have Project A open and you want to work on Project B, you have to close Project A and then open Project B. And it's just the nature of how intensive After Effects really can.
Or it's even like that in like iMovie.
Right, exactly. Premiere is the same way. You can only have one. You can only have one project open at a time. So this is a very complex
Yeah.
project, and I will try to
You're
show
so
you.
organized.
Yes, you could do animations, not always, but definitely.
This is okay.
Okay, so for this one, we have, how I did it was 42 layers, and within these 42 layers, you have basically,
Is that like a way to open up each layer at the top?
right, so for this project, since it was so involved, there is basically how you, just basic kind of organization, and not every project's like this, obviously. Not every project's going to be this big, but if you want to get into like some really heavy-duty, big things like this, what you want to do is you want to pre-compose certain layers, and then put into a main layer. And essentially, all of this 5 through 18, all these guys right here, are pre-composed layers. So in 6, if I just double-click 6, you can see that opens up more layers.
Those are your 42 base layers.
Base layers, and within each layers, there could be anywhere from 5 to 20 to 15 layers in that. And then within your other layer, as you can see, there's more layers, and that's basically your base layer of this effect.
Wow, that's why you're saying that one row took so long.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, for instance, this effect right here, I'll explain this and I'll get to the globes since I already have this open. So we have, so this scene 701 to 09, which is pre-composed 6, and in here you have your different effects. Now, how I kind of laid it out here, you can see where I kind of named the effect and what's happening in the timeline. So, for instance, here's what I call the paper dolls. So this one, so on the timeline, you can see the paper dolls action doesn't happen until you get to this part, right? As it hit, see where it hits it, and then it just kind of, much like how I did before, you add the effect on the timeline. It's all the keyframe. You click on this, it opens up how I'm actually doing it. How I'm actually doing it is each guy is being folded. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just repeating it. So the very first layer on that effect is this Photoshop layer. That's it. I start there. And
So you make the guys in Photoshop.
exactly. So I make the guy in Photoshop, or any type of picture, essentially. And then, as I was saying before, all the stuff like position, rotation, all the type of effects that you want to do is that you add your keyframe. So this effect right here is very simple. I'm basically just cutting the guy in half, I'm rotating it, and you can kind of see the rotation. You see the rotation move and the position. And those are all done in these keyframes right here.
So your keyframes are little spools. Does that mean something different? It's not the diamonds?
Oh, right, good eye. When you first make a keyframe, we have these guys, these diamonds. Okay? And you're probably asking, oh, well, Andrew, you didn't talk about these little bow tie things, because I forgot. Okay. Whenever you make an animation, let's say you get from point A to point B, when you first start out with it, the diamonds, what it is, it's a linear. It basically travels from this point to this point at a constant speed. Now that works sometimes, but sometimes it's very robotic. Sometimes what you want to do, you want a ramp. You want to like kind of start off slow, get faster, then end off slow, so it's nice and easy. Now, all that effect of going between slowing, fast, slowing, and constant, it happens the exact same time frame, but it looks different, essentially. because you're speeding up, going really fast, and you're slowing down. A constant is just one speed.
That's the diamond, and then.
That's diamond.
And it's
So-
different,
When it's different, so what you want to do is you want to take your guys here, basically select them both, your two keyframes. Then you can right click. Then you go to your keyframe assist. And in your keyframe assist, there's a thing called Easy Ease. And basically what that does is automatic. It makes it into that graphical ramp. I can actually show you that ramp too. Let's see.
So if you didn't have that, you just had the diamond effect, how would your capabilities work? They would just flip.
They would just flip like kind of like really fast. I mean, it's one of those things where you're adding easy ease or use a constant. It's almost not noticeable, but you if it's just constant, you don't know something's wrong. Something it just feels static. You don't know what it is, and that's mainly because your animations probably aren't smooth or it's not organic, it's not natural. So when you put that easy ease in, what that does, it gives it that like it just feels better. There's no science. I mean, it's just how it looks essentially. And it just when you have an easy ease in there, you have the motion, it makes it feel natural.
You're a genius. Where did you study this in
Yeah, I was
school?
gonna say, how did you learn the program?
Oh, I didn't go to school.
Self-taught?
Yeah,
Did you like apprentice or just
no.
go from?
I pretty much graduated high school. I grew up in New Jersey. Graduated high school when I was 18. Moved to this city. I was right after high school. 27 right now. So I've been in the city
Wow.
since 18 to 27, and I've been pretty much just work. Just plain jobs and work.
I like your job.
Uh,
I like your job.
So that's basically how. And that being said, I mean I've worked with After Effects for a number of years. All this stuff, it's just I read online obviously, read books, you read
So
like
you're essentially
tutorials.
self-taught and hands-on.
Exactly, essentially. All the stuff that I know is pretty much just years of just
Playing with it.
just playing with it, working with it, knowing what works, what doesn't work. I mean, what's great about it,
It's so frustrating.
what's great about After Effects or Photoshop or anything, there's like 5 different ways to do an effect sometimes. It's depending on how you want to get it done.
So true. Yeah. It's like you could erase or you could just do a box and a fill.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So oh, how do you do this? Oh, okay, here's how I'm showing how I did mine.
Yeah.
Another guy could probably do the exact same thing in a different way. So it's just how, if you just kind of get the basics down, the basic understandings, and the basic understandings is really the keyframes, the arrows, and the layering of that.
Yeah.
You pretty much, that's a great basis to get onto
So
it.
you can start playing.
Because then you can start really having fun. And that project probably has, I never counted the layers, but 45 times 20. That's
Honestly, so
it's just like I don't know, almost at 900 layers in that one thing happening along. So it takes.
Can I ask, how did you create these, how did you organize, since you said the term about the subgroup and that, you know what I'm saying, like how did you create the layer and then the sublayers?
A lot of yelling,
What did you say?
a lot of yelling, a lot of tearing my hair out. I mean, it all looks nice now.
Yeah, but
You know,
you just can't click it, oh
No, it all looks nice now.
no. Yeah.
But for instance, for this project, just this simple effect of the guy opening up right here.
Yeah.
I mean, how this project worked, there was a script they had, and the script was like, we want, here's like the words. There was like the slides essentially. And basically, what I first do is you make a screenplay, you make a storyboard essentially. And within the storyboards, they're say, okay, Andrew, how can you get from here to here? Okay, I can, and basically I would write out my camera movements. so I want a text left move here, and I want an effect of a guy moving. So sometimes, and I've done this in the past, I move my mouth a little too much, and they say, Andrew, okay, now you go do it. And I'm like, with my hair, how do I do this now? Because I know what I want to do, but it's just how do you actually start building it? So for this paper guy, I knew how to make the shape. Actually, I think I originally got this online. I got an imported layer into Photoshop, and I wanted to make the animation like you're kind of like opening up a paper thing. So really simple. It's two layers. It's 2 layers as you can kind of see here. And one layer is you have this guy right here. See how it's being open. Let's go to the timeline. It's just rotating. It's moving. And you can see the transform. And it's just rotating across the y-axis. And x, y, all that stuff. And they have the second layer open up. The second layer starts here. And then it's right on top of it. And there I'm just rotating across the y-axis again. So that's your basic one little animation.
So nice.
So then I basically take that one thing and I copy it. So I take that one animation and I copy left and right, and so pretty much that. So the animation really was one thing. Like here was the base. Okay, I take these guys. Select it, edit, pre-compose. So after you're done with your animation, basically take all your layers that you want, pre-compose. What that does, it takes all the animation and it puts it into like this little guy, this little movie. So from there, you just build.
And these tabs are all nested within main? Or
Right, exactly. So that's exactly the perfect terminology. So we start here, pre-compose. I copy and paste, I do more. I lay out the animation as you can see here, the different as it's moving on the timeline. I take all these files, select them all, layer, pre-compose, goes into here, in this one, and here is my paper doll animation, and that's layered on top of all this other crap. That took, a while to do too as well.
I know this is part of a larger project, so you can't probably take out just this one part, but if you wanted to export just these dolls as an animated GIF, as opposed to having them be a layer in a video, can you export GIFs, or do you have to throw them into Photoshop or something to make it
If I wanted to-
accessible?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, let's say I did all this work, and I have my paper dolls, and I want to export just the paper dolls and nothing else. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, also I'm asking how do you say it as a GIF?
You specifically want to save it as a GIF?
Yeah,
And not as
like you wanted this to be an animated GIF as opposed to a rendered video.
Let's see. Well, first I'll go to this and in here you have like little eye thing that just turns on and off your
I see,
layers.
yeah.
So right now I'm only showing my pickleball player. If you want to export it, you go over to File, Export, Add to Render Queue, and then in Render Queue, you can actually get into your render settings. So I actually never exported a GIF. So let's see if I can.
It's okay if not, it's just curious, no big deal.
So I So if I wanted to export an alpha, the only two things with an alpha, would be you could there's a QuickTime, an animation codec. That's not.
I understand what you're asking though, but what I think, because there's a woman who teaches GIF, and I think what has to happen, she teach it in Premiere, and they have to use a second program. So I see what you're saying, there's not a way to just like save it .gif from here.
I don't know.
There's,
Who teaches that?
Kate,
Who?
Kate Collins.
What's up?
Artist is animated
I see what you're saying, is there like a process where you can just save it?
I don't think there is.
Yeah, there's another step, I'm just not sure what it is.
What you could do is you could save it as a PNG sequence or Photoshop sequence or a TIFF sequence, and what that would do is, let's say it's a 30-second, let's say it would output, each of the frame would be, each frame would be it, and then from there you can import it into Premiere and make the GIF. Or Photoshop, exactly. Probably the easy way would be Photoshop sequence. I don't think there
I don't think
is.
Premiere can.
I'm not too sure.
No, I think it's Photoshop, yeah. Cool, thank you.
That makes sense, that's that extra step.
Right.
Photoshop sequence, then go back to Photoshop.
Well, let's say if you did want to output a movie with an alpha and it has a transparent layer,
Yeah.
have you ever worked or done that before?
Yeah.
I mean, for that, that's really simple.
Does this have a transparent layer right now? No.
No, I have to activate it. So you go to QuickTime, then under channel, it's RGB plus alpha.
Uh-huh.
And then make sure animation is selected here, format options. Animation is the only thing you would use if you want transparent layer. You could use Apple ProRes 444, but just stick with animation.
And that only matters if you're going to be opening it up in another program, right? Because if you're actually going to be watching something or putting it on the internet, it will just go to black, right?
Well, there's no real point if you're going to do that. But if you want to, like, let's say you have two movies and you want to export them from an alpha and you want to put them in Premiere or something like that. You want to put on top of each other and you want the transparent layer. This is how you would do it. Then after that.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too, because this little video that I made, I'm like, now do I have to bring this into Photoshop?
What do you want to do with your video?
Well, it's just like made with the intention of being a GIF.
Okay.
Can we see what this is?
Huh?
Can you see what this, it's transparent now? So,
No,
Oh, I can make, like, basically all this space behind it would be transparent. So then I could take this video and I can layer on top of, let's say, anything, and then I can have paper dolls. Like why would I would do that for anything like if you're watching a documentary TV thing called lower thirds, we see like a name would pop out, whatever like that. If you just have like you pre-make them and just have like an animation just kind of lay it on top.
yeah.
okay. Now to work backwards from that,
Yeah.
so you didn't make this, and you found this paper dolls, and it has the blue in it. It's at that
Right,
Just
rotoscope.
take the blue out.
Right, exactly. So let's say I had a file and I wanted to be alpha, then I would have to rotoscope
I see.
all of the blue out.
Do you have to do it? Is there like in Photoshop a magic wand tool that does it?
Chroma key.
Oh, you can do that.
You can key it out.
You- you-
It is the blue background.
If it's like a solid blue background like that, that's
Yeah.
easy. Then you can
But
just
I am working with cartoons, so it could
potentially be.
Oh, okay, if we're a
Yeah.
cartoon, that actually works in your advantage. You'd only want to rotoscope if you work with live action or anything like, because then you can't really key anything
So
out
you
that much.
wanted to take out the blue.
Okay, let's do it. Let's take out that blue.
Yeah,
Let's do that. Let's do that.
This is the best day of my life.
Key,
What's it?
key,
Keying.
that's, right.
Another genius over here, huh?
So
Maybe
let's
they're,
close this. Let's see if I can.
yeah, like you could use, because it's a little eyedropper, and you can take that whole teal out.
Yeah, this,
Yeah.
perfect, yeah.
And I'll import some green screen footage. And I'll import the blue camera too as well. So I put it here. Let's get to the blue. Let's say. This might be a little hard to key out since we have different type of levels of blue, but there are different different keying methods we can use to actually try to isolate that blue out.
Okay.
Also, quite an easier way, all of your effects are here too as well. Blue 2, where is it? Okay, so let's try key light. Key light's pretty much the best one.
Oh, wait, mine's not so.
You have key light on yours?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Alright, so key light, after you select it, you have this guy open up right here. Okay. Really simple. Eyedropper.
God.
Boom. It just took out that blue. So here's a on and off. And then you have your transparent layer, which you can tell by the checkerboard. And then you kind of change how to try to isolate the key if you're trying to key a color out. So since you're working with cartoons, that actually would work out perfectly. Did it work for you? Did you key something out of your
Well, I'm more just painting on top of something, I think.
more painting on top of something?
When I do that, it changes its color. Let me see.
Let me see.
Yeah, when
Is
I
your-
have my
Is your
eyedropper-
background layer black? Maybe that's what's going.
So what do you want to take out of Sailor Moon? Sailor Moon?
Yeah. Like anything, just for example, if we wanted to know this part.
Let's see.
You see?
Well, that's.
Oh, that just is its background?
Oh, you're on.
It takes out that color from the entire thing, always?
It's basically.